Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Vedic Living. Today, we'll be talking about the upcoming eclipse season. This is going to be very impactful. There are so many transits going on which are dynamic. And I looked at the charts and I can't wait to share with you what I see there. And of course, as always, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think, because I know a lot of you know astrology and we are all in this together and we're trying to learn. So I'm not claiming to know everything. I'll share with you what I know, and we'll learn and grow together. So with that being said, I do want to point you to my website, www.vedic-living.com. That's where you can go to get more information about me and read my newsletters. You can sign up for my free newsletter. I just sent out the newsletter for the month of September with a lot of information for everybody. And you can use that to plan your day-to-day life, because I do predictions by the week in those newsletters. There's so much information in there. So you can absolutely use it to kind of see what's coming up and how to plan your life better. And also on my website, you can book readings. You can read my articles. There's so much information on there. So please do visit my website, www.vedic-living.com. Now, with that being said, let's look at the charts for this upcoming eclipse season. So that would be the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. And we are going to talk in detail about what these eclipses are going to bring for this planet and how it's going to impact you. And like I said, everything in the world in terms of astrology is cyclic. We cannot say that, oh, this is one thing that has never happened before. At some point in history, these transits, these eclipses, these patterns have happened. That's why when whoever said history repeats itself, I think they knew astrology, because it really does repeat itself, right? So as astrologers, we go back, do the research, and we try to see, when is the last time this happened? What happened back then? And it does give us a lot of information as to how to expect or what to expect in the coming years. So with that being said, I do want to kind of point out that this eclipse season is more impactful than previous ones that I've seen, and only because almost every planet is kind of tied up in this eclipse. And usually when that happens, even in history, historically, when this has happened, it means that there are so many energies that are kind of conflicting with each other. And there's just kind of, overall tension that is built up. But there's also a lot of positives. Nothing in astrology is set in stone. Astrology or the planets can only dictate the circumstance, the things that are happening around you. And like Shakespeare once said, all worlds are stage. So it sets the stage around you. It sets the actors, the people around you, the stage around you. And what is still your own free will exists, because it is up to you how you react when you enter the stage or this frame, right? How do you react to these situations that are happening around you? How do you react to this frame that has been built around you? How are you going to kind of communicate or kind of interact with the circumstance that has been built around you? That is still your free will. That is why we say, when something happens, say a situation A happens to somebody, right? ABC happens to somebody. That person has a certain way of dealing with it, or that person might kind of, react in a certain way to it, but you may react to that in a completely different way because you're a different person. So that's why whenever we say as astrologers, yes, the circumstance exists, right? And not only in world astrology, I'm talking about your own personal astrology. When a certain dasha starts or a certain transit starts, it's not set in stone that, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the meaning of this transit. This is the meaning of this dasha. It's going to be incredibly bad for you. Go and hide in your homes. Don't come out till this is over. No, absolutely not. Right? We know how those planets or those dashas are going to bring about a certain circumstance around you. But if you change the way you look at it, and that's where enlightenment comes in, that's where spirituality comes in, that's where a higher vibration level comes in, you change the outcome, right? It's not just one side. It's not the circumstance that's building it. Like they say, you need two hands to clap. The circumstance is only one hand. The other hand is your own enlightened way of looking at the situation and trying to learn the best from the situation. Say, for example, there is a Saturn transit or a Saturn dasha that's bringing about delays and obstacles in your life. Take a step back and see, okay, what is the Saturn trying to teach me? Why is this being delayed at this time? And have faith that everything that is happening is for your highest good. And everything in life we can learn from. I mean, there are some really tough situations I've seen my clients go through, and they come out of it with major learnings. And that's what we are here for on this planet. We are here to learn and grow and evolve, right? So when I do these videos on predictions and such, I always tell you, yes, this is the circumstance that is created by the situation. How are you going to react to it? That's why I always end every video saying, connect to yourself and, find your spiritual purpose from within and, connect to that, the spirit, the soul within you, and see how you want to react to this, because the soul is all knowing. It has all the knowledge. We just happen to forget it when we were born on this planet. All that knowledge is within you, and you can connect to it, right? Through whatever means it may be, right? Through meditation, through yoga. I have clients who have planets in the 12th house or the 8th house, and they just, like, in their dreams, they get revelations, right? They don't even have to meditate. So whatever that purpose may be, whatever that way that you connect to your soul may be, it doesn't matter, as long as you get that information from within. And that's why I tell people, in today's world, one of the major catastrophes, or even if you want to call it one of the major crippling factors in today's society, is the media. because because of the media and the constant bombarding of social media and all the news and all the stuff that is happening around us, we have somehow been trained to listen outwards than inwards. Back in the day, many, many, many millions of years ago, our ancestors, our purvajo, they never had media. They connected to their selves. That's why they meditated. They got the answers from within. We forgot how to do that because we have the crutch of the social media or society telling us what's going on and how we should be reacting in a certain situation. So connect to your inner soul who has all the knowledge, and you will know how to traverse this time and learn from it and get the best out of it, right? So keep that faith. And like I say all the time, do remember that although the circumstances can be created by the planets and the dashas and the transits, what you ultimately do is up to you and how you react to these situations. So we will get through this together. That's why I have this channel, and I have all of you coming here almost every week and looking at my videos, because the point is not that I'm telling you to do something. The point is we are coming together as a community, and we are going to hold hands and get through this time together. And that's the most empowering thing. In Vedic astrology, the 11th house rules groups and social settings and huge communities coming together. But the 11th house is also the house of great gains. I do believe the great gains comes out of people coming together as a group, as a community. So I think of you guys as my group, my community, and this is, we are going to do this together. We are going to get through this time together with the help of astrology, because now we can look at the planets and say, okay, I can see this. I can see the pattern. I can see the situation that is going to unfold in front of us. And this is how I choose to take the higher road, right? This is how I choose to be in the situation and make the best of it. So with that being said, let's go and look at the charts and see what these eclipses are going to bring to us. Okay, so here's a chart for the lunar eclipse that is happening on September 17th. It is happening around 10:30 p.m. in Eastern time, Eastern Standard Time. That would be in United States. So, based on that, you will know what the time is around the area where you are located. So the first thing right off the bat, an eclipse always happens when the sun and moon either oppose each other or conjunct each other, and they come in connection with the nodes, Rahu and Ketu. And there's always going to be two eclipse seasons in a year. In each time there's an eclipse, it's a 6-month period following that eclipse that you'll see the impact in. And then the next eclipse happens, and then the 6 month after that will be based on that eclipse season. Okay. So it's not, and I always, kind of mention this and whenever I do an eclipse video, that it's not that on the day of the eclipse something's going to happen. It may, but that's not always the case. It is usually that 6-month period when things are going to happen in a heightened fashion, right? So, and everything that happens in the upcoming 6 months will be flavored by this time frame, by what is happening, by this particular eclipse chart, right? So that's how we look at it. So anything that I'm looking at here and saying here could happen over the next 6-month period, which is from October all the way till around March, April timeframe. Okay. Now this is an intense time because I've told you in the past that Mars is going to be kind of going back and forth between Gemini and Cancer during this time. And it's going to be retrograde, going back, going direct, coming back again. And it's going to go back and forth between these two signs. And Mars in Cancer is always tough because Cancer is where Mars is debilitated, which means people are upset and angry about things. And this is happening towards the end of this year, between October and December. Things are not very easy during this time. And, but, I do think this lunar eclipse that's happening on September 17th kind of kicks off everything for the next 5 to 6 months period. Okay. So if you look at how this lunar eclipse is kind of laid out, so of course the sun and moon are opposing each other, right? That's when a lunar eclipse happens. It's a full moon. And then you have the nodes tied up with it, which, they're not exactly the same degree, but they are tied up with it. And then we look at this chart, we're like, okay, now what does this chart tell us? Now, first, right off the bat, you have the moon conjunct with Neptune. Now, this is important because Neptune has a lot of meanings in Vedic astrology. Now, I do know a lot of you tell me we don't use the outer planets in Vedic astrology. Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune are not used. Actually, that's not true, right? Back in the day, and I always refer back to the Mahabharata because, those texts have been deciphered and kind of translated so many times and with that information. They did refer to Uranus and Neptune in the Mahabharata text when they talked about astrological concepts. They talked about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And whoever has read those texts know that those planets are referred to in the Mahabharata text as Shweta, Shyama, and Tikshana. Those were what they were referred to. So when we say these planets were discovered in the last 150 to 200 years, that's not actually true. Our ancestors knew about the existence of these planets in India. So, I do think that they were referred to for various purposes. Now, I have to kind of also give you a fair warning here because these outer planets are generational because they stay in a sign for a long period of time. What that means is that when you're born, yes, these planets are in a certain sign, but they are going to be there for a certain number of years. So entire generations of people have that planet like Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto in those positions. Now, it does become very significant when the outer planet connects with a personal planet, which is what we are seeing in this eclipse chart. You can see right here that moon is connected or conjunct Neptune. Now, this is a very important thing because Neptune rules, it rules diseases, right? A lot of times when you have Neptune in a certain placement in the chart, it tells us where that person's physique or their body is weak. And also Neptune rules misdiagnosis. So if you have Neptune in the 6th house, there's a high possibility that you could be misdiagnosed when you have some kind of health problem. So, in those cases, I always tell my clients, get a second or a third opinion because it's very possible that the first one may not be correct. Similarly, in an eclipse chart, when Moon and Neptune come together, it tells us that the upcoming 5 to 6 month period, there's going to be some health issues. There's going to be some health scares. And, a lot of people are saying there's going to be a pandemic. I think, this is going to be more of a really bad flu season or, some sort of scare. It may not even be real because Neptune, on the other hand, also rules deception. It rules deception and deceit. So things are hidden here, right? Everything that is going to come out in the next 5 to 6 months is hidden from the public. And, we see things being revealed, and these are shocking things that are being revealed, of course. But Neptune over there with the moon or tied up with this eclipse tells me that there's going to be some hidden things that are going to come out during the next 5 to 6 month period, especially to do with health or even the previous pandemic. There could be some things that come out about this previous pandemic. Now, Neptune also rules the oceans and it rules tides and water. So yes, there's a very high possibility of storms and tsunamis and earthquakes and things like that, underwater earthquakes and things like that. But, in the general sense, with media and the news agencies, Neptune with the moon or Neptune with this eclipse can indicate that things that are being told to the public is not true. There is a lot of false information going around. Going back to the reason why I gave a long talk before I came into this chart about how you need to connect to your inner soul to get the information that you need. And kind of, when people say, I have a gut feeling about something, that is actually their intuition. Use your intuition, okay? That's what it means. Now, with this Moon-Neptune combination and the Rahu here, Rahu is magnifying it, right? It's magnifying that particular combination. But on the other hand, this can also mean that things like, when you see something in the news or when you're being told something in the news, you're being told something that is not correct. And there is a hidden kind of agenda or even like a hidden theme to everything that we are hearing in the next 5 to 6 month period. Almost like, a movie is being played. And the reason I say that, around the time Neptune was discovered in the modern times, right? I told you Neptune was, in our old ancient Indian text, Neptune is mentioned. So I don't think that it was discovered newly in the modern times. But as far as we know, in the modern kind of time frame, Neptune was discovered in the early 1900s. And when Neptune was discovered, that's the time frame when silent movies and photography and movies, media came about. And there's a reason why Neptune rules all that, because it rules deceit and deception. Movies are made up, right? So when Neptune is tied up with the nodes like this and with the eclipse, it tells me that a whole frame is being created. So be careful what you believe, okay? And remember, by the end of this eclipse season, the truth will come out, right? So when we talk about a 6 month period, it starts off with all this deception and deceit, but by the end of it, which is around March, April next year, the truth will come out. Now, here's the next thing that's about this lunar eclipse, right? Which is kickstarting our 6 month eclipse season. Mars is right here. And there's a lot of things about this Mars. One, it's in the nakshatra Ardra. Ardra is not an easy nakshatra for Mars to be in because it does rule sadness and difficulties and problems. But on the other hand, I do think Ardra rules spirituality. Okay. So, and I want to kind of mention this again, go back to that moon Neptune. One of the major indications of moon Neptune is that it rules, this particular combination can bring about a spiritual awakening. A lot of people are waking up today to the reality of the world around them and, kind of seeing the matrix for what it is, right? So this is definitely a good thing for the next 6-month period, because even though there's this deception and deceit around us, there is a good number of people who are going to be kind of aware of it, and they know that this is the situation, and they know that um, they need to kind of wait for the truth to be revealed. So it is highly spiritual, highly enlightening period of time. You may notice yourself kind of having some emotional, spiritual kind of awakening during this period. And also, especially if you have your sun or moon on these placements, it's even more, right? You're seeing, not only does this affect on a world stage, in your personal lives, you're seeing the reality of people around you, and it's being revealed to you. So just remember that in your personal kind of frame as well. But also, the Mars and Ardra can also indicate spiritual awakenings, although Mars and Ardra can be a little unstable and volatile. There can be riots and commotion and fights during this period because it brings violence, right? Ardra is the nakshatra that has to do with storms, and and basically it's unstable weather. So Mars being there during the eclipse season is telling us that there's going to be some amount of violence in the world in the next 5 to 6 month period. Also, another reason why this is important is Mars is exactly at the midpoint of the nodes. See, Rahu is at 12 degrees here, Ketu is at 12 degrees here, Mars is exactly at the midpoint. So it is anchoring the nodes, which means that whatever is happening in the next 5 to 6 month period will have a flavor of destiny. Karmic retribution, right? Everything that will happen in the next 6 month period, you will notice that you will have the feeling like, oh, this is required in terms of the tipping of the scales karmically. Saturn is still retrograde during this eclipse time frame, and it is 6-8 with this eclipse, which means that Saturn is also in a karmic kind of placement. So things that are happening are very, karmic in nature. But at the same time, one of the major things about this placement is that with Saturn being here, in Aquarius, it does tell us, and of course, it's going to move forward. Right now it's retrograde, but it's going to move forward and go into Shatabhishak in a few months from now. Shatabhishak rules the 100 healers. And usually when Saturn is in Shatabhishak is a time of medical discoveries. There's going to be a lot of medical discoveries coming up in the next 2 to 3 month period towards the end of the year, because Saturn in Shatabhishak means that the karmic patterns are supporting bringing about cures to diseases and such. Also, remember, Shatabhishak rules the sky, right? We call it the sky watcher, which means that there will be major things happening with space travel. Yes, right now with Saturn being retrograde, we can see problems in space travel, as you guys already know, with the Polaris Dawn and other space missions are being kind of stalled, which I think is because Saturn is retrograde. But also Uranus is retrograde, and that's another reason why space travel is having some issues right now as we speak. But when these planets go direct, which is going to be end of the year, early next year, you will notice that things will start moving forward again. There's going to be major kind of strides made in space travel and in medical innovation and medical discoveries. A lot of people will go towards holistic naturopathic kind of medicine during this time because Moon is sitting with Neptune. Neptune does rule medicine as well. And another reason for that is because all these planets of the eclipse is in the sign of Virgo, which has to do with health and healing. Now, it is not great that Venus is sitting right there, which is debilitated. It's in its debilitation sign with Ketu. But, in about a week from there, it is going to move forward. So if I move this a week, so you see, it's not really going to be there for a long time, although we will see some debilitated Venus kind of effects happening in the next two weeks or so. The reason being, with the Venus being debilitated, you will see issues in your personal relationships, marriages, with your partners, with your relationship partners, with your business partners and such. You can see problems because Venus is debilitated. It's sitting with Ketu and, Sun, even though it's not very close to the Venus, it's in the same sign. So there is a very heightened weakening of the planet Venus, which rules relationships and love. So, remember that when you get into arguments with your spouse in the next 2 weeks, because, this is the reason why. But in about a week from now, when Venus goes into Libra, things will get better. Okay. So that's the good news there. Now, like I said, with the medical and health implications of this particular eclipse, remember to keep your immunity strong, and especially in United States, because in United States chart, this particular Venus is the ruler of the 6th house of health. And, Mars is an Ardra as well. Remember that. So this is definitely going to be a problem in the United States in terms of health. Okay, so just remember that. Now, I looked at a lot of world charts, countries and world leaders and such. I'll make a separate video on all the implications that I saw, but for now, I do want to talk about some of the countries that are going to get affected in this upcoming eclipse season. One is Israel, because in December, when Mars is in Cancer, it is going to be on Israel's moon. In Israel's chart, transiting Mars is going to be on its moon, and transiting Uranus is going to be on its sun. So this upcoming 6-month period is not great for Israel, especially the leader of Israel either. So that's one of the countries that I saw impacted. Another country I saw impacted was Iran, because Neptune is going to be on Iran's Mars and Mercury. So again, it's showing that there's a lot of hidden things there. There's some deception going on there, and things are going to be revealed at the end of the 6-month period. But then later on in February, when Mars will be stationed to go direct, Russia's chart is affected, because at that point, Russia is transiting Mars will be on Russia's Jupiter. So that is definitely affected. Ukraine's chart is affected in February, March timeframe next year, because transiting Mars will be on Ukraine's Ketu, while another thing, transiting Pluto is on Ukraine's Saturn. So two things that are happening in the coming year, with the early next year, with Russia and Ukraine. So that's going to be a very volatile time for both the countries. I do think the war is going to escalate a little bit, but then it might kind of come to a closure, or kind of come back to a normal state towards the end of the eclipse season, which will be April 2025. Now, for US, again, it's a very volatile time anyway for the next 6 months, because Mars is on USA's sun, all right? So for leadership, leaders, any kind of people, even not just leaders, but even people running for the election, not only in US, but around the world, because sun is affected in the eclipse chart. You can see that sun is sitting with a debilitated Venus. It is showing us that some attacks happening on world leaders and people who are running in the elections to become world leaders. They have to be very careful. And Neptune's tied up here, which means that things are very hidden. So even if something happens, it won't be very clear why or how these things have happened. There's like under the kind of rug, things are being swept under the rug, so to speak. So US chart is very affected in the next 6 months, okay, in a bad way. So just remember that when you see things happening, especially with world leaders or leaders in the United States. In terms of people, I looked at a few charts, but I will be looking at more. Of course, this is like I have to open each chart and kind of look at it. But one of the ones I saw really standing out for this eclipse season is King Charles, because I noticed that Mars will be on his ascendant, stationed on his ascendant in December. So that's not great for him. He has to be careful towards the end of the year. And actually going until the eclipse season is over, which is by April of 2025. He has to be very careful. And then because I looked at King Charles' chart, I looked at Kate Middleton chart as well. And once again, I saw an implication there, which was really, really, coincidental, because it's like it's happening in both their charts. So in Kate Middleton's charts, Mars is stationing at that 11 degrees of Cancer, and it will oppose her Mercury. And in February, it will station on her moon Rahu. So the end of the year going into early next year, again, Kate Middleton also has to be careful with her health. With Mars coming into the picture, things are a little heightened in terms of their current health situation. I do think that they may get better, and by the end of the eclipse season, which is April, this energy will kind of die down, but for now they have to be careful. I will continue to look at the charts of celebrities and countries for this eclipse season, but these are the ones that I saw mainly kind of standing out for the next 6-month period. So here's the chart for the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse is happening on October 2nd, again in Eastern Standard Time in United States. It's around 2 p.m. But it will of course happen at different times around the planet, but based on your time zone at that time. But as you can see, the solar eclipse is also kind of having the same indications pretty much, just that now the moon is on this side. It is in Virgo with the sun conjunct, and it's sitting with the nodes. Of course, that's how an eclipse happens. And you have Mercury there instead of a debilitated Venus. So I found that very interesting, that when the lunar eclipse happened, you had debilitated Venus sitting with the eclipse. When the solar eclipse happens 2 weeks from there, exalted Mercury comes there, which tells me that even though things may look very difficult in this time frame, with Mercury exalted coming into that sign, it means that people are kind of waking up to things. Mercury is the planet that rules intelligence, intellect. As we know in India, it's called Budh, which means buddhi. Buddhi means intelligence. And it does rule your kind of that knowledge that you have from within. And it rules research. It rules research, information, everything. So with this Mercury coming together with the solar eclipse, I do think that the darkness is dispelled with knowledge. That's the way I look at this, because debilitated Venus goes out, exalted Mercury comes in. Amazing. Now, with this being said, and I know a lot of you who are out there who love doing their research and understanding how the kind of the wheels turn, so to speak, you're going to get to the bottom of a lot of things, right? You'll be like, okay, wait a minute. I don't think what this media is telling me is true. I'm going to go and do my research and figure this out. And you will figure it out. Another kind of positive I saw with the solar eclipse is that now Mars is no longer in Ardra. It is sitting in Punarvasu, which is return of the light. Ardra is the dark nakshatra, whereas Punarvasu is the return of the light. So again, kind of going with that theme of debilitated Venus being replaced by exalted Mercury, and Mars going from Ardra into Punarvasu again, the return of the light, we do see that there is hope here, right? There is some things that are going to come out, which will ultimately open people's eyes to what is happening around them, and hence give them the closure and the hope to kind of get through this time, which is great. Now, I also want to kind of tell you that with this particular placement of planets during solar eclipse time frame, you see the Hasta Nakshatra is heightened here, like 4 planets in Hasta Nakshatra. Hasta Nakshatra indicates one, creative ventures. You'll see a lot of creative things happening. And this kind of ties up with the fact that I talked about medical innovation, medical discoveries, and healing related things. Hasta rules healing. The symbology of Hasta is the hand. So a lot of people are going to look into, natural, holistic, homeopathic, whatever, any kind of holistic healing, because that's what Hasta rules. It specifically rules things that have to do with Reiki and any kind of energy healing, things like that. But people are very creative at this time, which is why I think towards the end of the year, you will see great strides happening in space exploration and in medical discoveries. Both these things are going to be heightened. And you will see arts and media, like movies and arts, like being really, really propagated and encouraged during this time, because not only is, we are talking about Hasta. Look at where Venus is. Venus is sitting in Libra, very comfortable in its own sign of rulership. Venus is creative, very, very creative. So people are looking to come together and create arts, works of art and movies and such, which is very nice. Very inspired to be writing during this time. If you ever wanted to write a book and get that book completed, this is a great time to do it around the month of October. Now, talking about United States, this is definitely a volatile time. I do want to say that, okay? I know I talked about a lot of positive things, but for United States, all of these planets, including Ketu, comes in its 10th house of leadership and power. So October, November, December, Jan, Feb, and even March. This period is going to be very, very volatile. Always like that feeling that the rug is pulled from under your feet. So you have to be very kind of stable inside and inwardly be more stable to be able to get through this time. It will get over. But I do want to tell you that at the end of this eclipse season, March, April timeframe, you will see something good come out of all this. So hang in there, okay? Even though the situation may look a little volatile in this in the end of the year, things are going to get better by April timeframe next year. Now, Hasta, because it rules the hand, it does rule craftsmanship, building things. That's why I said there's going to be new discoveries, new inventions, new devices and machines that are built during the 6-month period leading up to April. Now, I know you guys keep saying, why do I bring up this person's chart? But like I said, I look at almost all celebrity charts that I can get my hands on. And whenever I see certain transits happening, I talk about it, right? So one of the people that I see really affected during this eclipse season also is Donald Trump. Because if you look at his chart, you can see that in the last week of October, Mars will transit his Venus in his 12th house, his Venus and his Saturn in the 12th house, which means that there is some kind of deformation or issues going on. 12th house is endings. There can be problems in terms of his public image. And also in January, it's not a great time. The first 2 weeks of January, Mars transits his Venus and Saturn again in the 12th house. 12th house rules where you're away from this world, right? You're in hiding, or you're being accused of something, or, it's usually 12th house rules hidden enemies. So when you have Mars transiting the 12th house planets, there are enemies around you which you're not aware of. So he has to be careful in the first 2 weeks of January, as well as the last week of October. Now, in the month of April 2025, Mars will transit his Venus and Saturn one last time in the 12th house. So remember the dates: end of October, first 2 weeks of January, and then the month of April. Those are the 3 times Mars will hit his Venus and Saturn in the 12th house. So there is going to be a major upheaval in his life in this time frame. Mars does rule anger and aggression, so maybe he's not happy about something. But at the same time, I do want to say Venus and Saturn in his 12th house being aspected by the Mars can indicate that he cannot trust people around him. So he has to be careful. Now, Saturn and Rahu will conjunct and aspect his midheaven, and Uranus will be on his midheaven alcove in April. So once that last kind of transit that I talked about just now, the Saturn Rahu conjunct on his midheaven, that happens in April. After that, if he can get through that, then he'll be fine. But that month of April 2025 is not good for him. It's definitely going to be a tough time. He has to be careful, especially with people who are very close to him, surrounding him. He has to be a little careful during this time. Now, even if it is not, I mean, of course, I saw these specific things in Donald Trump's chart, but I do want to say that overall, in the world stage, there's going to be issues for world leaders. So, especially the 6 month period. Out of the 6 month period, I think the most volatile is going to be November and December. Okay. So that's a time frame that you'll see a lot of these things happening. So with that being said, those were the two charts that I wanted to look at in terms of the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. And remember, wherever these planets fall for you in terms of Pisces and Virgo for the next 6 month period, that is very strong. And in terms of um, outcomes, so whatever those houses are for you, that's where the impact will be seen. For example, if Pisces and Virgo are your first and seventh house, then you will see most of the implications for the next 6 months in the area of relationships and business partnerships. If it is the second and eighth axis, it'll be financial matters for you. You're going to see a lot of upheaval around your financial strategy in terms of how you save money, how you learn to invest money. All those things will happen in the next 6 month period. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to do sign by sign predictions for the eclipse season for the upcoming 6 months so that you can kind of understand how this is going to affect you. And hopefully by then I do some more research and I can bring you some more country and celebrity impacts that we'll see in the next 6 months. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.